Welcome to Market Outsiders. It's Tuesday, July 8th. Naman joined by Jenny Ray. Jenny Ray, you want to say hi to the folks? How are you today?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Really excited to be dialing in from California. And honestly, I don't know why, but I feel like summer just really starts in July. This whole summer solstice thing is true-ish, but the 4th of July for me is the kickoff. So last night, one of my kids came to me after 11 o'clock and was just like, "Hey, dog, right? I'm still awake, and I read a book until 11." And I was like, "That's summer. That's summer to me." So I immediately told him to go to bed, but I was kind of smiling a little bit inside, thinking like, "This is it, right? You kind of take off the boundaries, and July feels like that month for me." So I'm excited to be here. What I want to talk about today, Naman, I don't know if you've got something else, but I want to talk about the fact that that Amazon Week, Prime Deals Week, is coming up, and I think it actually maybe kicks off today. It's not really my week, but I saw it in the business news this morning, and I didn't dive into it. I wanted to dive into it live because I thought it would be kind of interesting to do it. But what I have noticed, and I noticed this when I was in Target last week, and when I shopped on Walmart for groceries yesterday, because I'm a kind of trifold user of those three, is that both Walmart and Target are advertising a deal week this week. And so I thought it might be interesting to kind of just talk a little bit about the decision for the economics decision. I haven't noticed this happening before, so I haven't done a deep dive into whether this is the first week that they're working on matching the Amazon Prime deals, but it definitely feels like a kind of Black Friday move where one retailer moved originally and then others followed, and it became a thing that will become potentially a part of an entire summer experience for every retailer. So I wanted to just kind of tease that out about like why would businesses take a week that Amazon has designated kind of apparently randomly in the middle of the year to set up deals and experiences, and why, if they're not necessarily in head-to-head competition, if they're not deal making on the same things, are they taking that same playbook? So have you seen it, first of all? And then I've got some stuff that I can share if you've got anything else that you want to add. I want to make sure I'm not taking us in a random direction this morning.
I've definitely seen it. I think it's accelerated over the last 3 to 5 years. But Walmart was the first to move when they announced Walmart Plus. I started to notice, y'all have sales and deals that are on the same time as Prime Day, and then Target has its, I think they're called circled deals or something like
Mhm.
that. I'm not as
Yeah.
familiar with Target, but they also started to kind of hammer us with push notifications around the same time. And so, yes, they have been synced up for a couple of years now at least. But I would imagine that this year the ferocity and the intensity of the deals is probably more than it's been in the past.
It certainly has been from a consumer perspective. So sometimes we have a myopic perspective, but I use that as a string to pull on to try to identify what a business is thinking about. And I actually, what I'd be interested to know this year is kind of if other small retailers that are selling through Etsy are also doing these kinds of sales during this week. It's like there's attention on shopping that gets placed for Amazon, and that creates opportunity for other businesses. So I can just share the business news kind of feed that I was looking at this morning, and where this information came from. So, right, we're tracking the best Prime Day 2025 deals you need to know about right here. Was kind of the first thing. You can see, by the way, we've got other things that we talked about on the pod, AI, tariffs, etc. But I thought this was a really interesting point of business news, and this is what we would have thought of at Bain as a second order insight, right? This is not something that you can see just by looking at information. You have to think about it to kind of dive into whatever the next level is. So that's why I thought it was kind of interesting. So the best deals we're finding on day one of Prime Day. The first thing that you note here is that Prime Day is a newsmaker. And so if organizations are writing news stories about Prime Day, The other retailers are not just going to have mind share shifted to Amazon, where people are buying from Amazon this week, but they have the opportunity to get an asterisk or maybe even their own commentary if they're participating in something at the same time. So my first thought was, hey, why do you have the decision to do Circle Deals Week the same week that you have this? Well, it's because these kinds of articles are out there. This is free advertising for Amazon. It's interesting to consumers. And if you wait another week, you're not going to get it. You don't have that same behemoth that's leading the way. So if we do circle deals and it's the week before the 4th of July, or it's the first week of August, right? You're missing a total piece of that. So Amazon Prime Day is officially live. They launched their members only summer sales event Tuesday morning. So this morning it dropped. And for the first time, Prime Day will be longer than 2 days. This doesn't surprise me whatsoever because of two things. Number one, logistics, right? Trying to get everything out the door in a 2 day rush. Amazon, I remember visiting when I was in business school an Amazon facility that was almost entirely automated, managed by robots, where everything was picked off the shelf by robotics. And they still said that their hiring surge was like a 30 to 40% increase, as well as their shopping surge during the Christmas holiday. A 2 day experience in the middle of a standard period is really difficult to staff, right? So something longer than that is going to make it a lot easier to staff it up. Also, if you feel like you can bump demand, they're going to have this go for like the fact that it already hasn't been Prime Week is honestly a little bit shocking for me. But like I would imagine at some point it becomes Prime Month or something like that, right? Where you're in a period of lower demand in the summer season, you're trying to really jack up demand. Especially like I noticed in Target this last week, back to school stuff is already inside the store. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see dovetailing of some of that back to school experience pretty early. Right, there's some deals that they're scoring, right? So you're seeing all these different things inside the deal making experience. These are incredibly detailed pieces of content. We know as content makers that it takes a lot to actually write this detail with these many links, these many tracking links. But this is just like, look at this. This is an ABC station in Pittsburgh, right? So this is like a really small station that is lurking into the Prime Day field. They're probably pulling stuff from different places, but this is released not even as national news, but as hyper localized, interesting news. So then I kind of went on to Walmart, and this is what Walmart's calling theirs, right? Hot deals coming 7/8. Don't miss it, live at 5 p.m. So they're launching theirs later today. Part of that is probably from sucking the oxygen out of the room for Amazon. So if you say, hey, you've also got Walmart that's launching today, they're able to build on that, but they don't necessarily have to release what they're talking about. Walmart holds more stock in custody than Amazon does. So they are not just moving something on consignment. They're actually, they purchased it years ago, but they're trying to think of how to move their stuff, but also kind of dovetail with what you see on Amazon. And then for Target, right? Already started now through 7/12. So I think at the very least this year, we're going to see a week-long experience, which is possibly maybe why I noticed it more. They're also probably putting more marketing dollars behind it. Naman, if you're sitting at Target, if you're sitting at Walmart, we could leave this as a brand thing, but like I already mentioned from the Amazon side, there's also operations impact, there's financing impact, there's inventory impact. Can you talk just a little bit more about a planning process, when it would have started, and what you would have been thinking about if you were at one of those other retailers? And also, who may we see this from next?
Yeah, I would have started planning for this right after Christmas. So this to me is like a second Christmas season for these retailers. And I think there's really three reasons that you go ahead and do this. Number one is you want to capture a finite share of wallet. So you think about the share of wallet, like the spend that Amazon captures for the average consumer, right? And it's X% of their monthly budget that Amazon's capturing. And the risk to you, if you're Walmart or Target, is that that's a fixed pie for the most part. And this month, Amazon's going to capture more of the fixed pie, which means you're going to capture less. And there's a risk that, once somebody makes a big purchase, well, that big purchase is off the table for them for like a year or two. And so like that's money you've lost out on almost permanently. Or there's a risk that you're going to find something that you regularly buy cheaper on Amazon and you're going to be able to subscribe and save. And so the repeat visits that you would make to Walmart and Target, there's less incentive for you to make those because now you are just able to get something shipped through Amazon and it's on autopilot. It's just you've subscribed and you're going to get it every month, every quarter, whatever. And so I think the first thing that I would be thinking about is share of wallet is I need to make sure that I maintain the percentage of monthly budget that I have for Jenny Ray, right? And that I don't lose that permanently to Amazon because she's like found some kind of deal on Amazon and she's not going to come back to me for that item now. So that's the first thing I think about. The second thing I'd be thinking about, and you mentioned it already, is now is about the time of year that these retailers are starting to make their holiday season orders and they're starting to stock up on inventory now for peak kind of post Black Friday shopping. And so I need space to hold that inventory, which means I need to clear inventory now from the first half of the year. And my guess is that that's one of the reasons Amazon started Prime Days to begin with in July. Is that they needed to clear warehouse space for the holiday season. They're like, how do we do this? We need to manufacture demand. How do we manufacture demand? Well, we cut prices. And so I think this started as an operational play. If you worked at Amazon, you're listening to this, you can, leave a comment, let us know if we're right or not. But my instinct is that's one of the reasons they chose July to begin with. And then the third reason would be, what, there's maybe a little bit of a summer lull in sales anyways. People are on vacation, they are taking things a little bit more chill. You're not in the routine of the school year. And so everything's just kind of whack, like you mentioned. You're reading at 11 o'clock at night. Your kids aren't going to bed at the same time. And okay, like there might be a little bit of a lull or a dip in revenue. Can we kind of manufacture some of the demand, get people back through the door? So I think in order, those are the three things I'd be thinking about if I was Target or Walmart. And it makes sense to me why they'd be kind of drafting off of Amazon's wake here and trying to kind of siphon off some of the dollars that are going to be spent here over the next week.
One thing that I want to mention that I think is super interesting is the difference in messaging between these deal weeks and standard deals. Because I think that if you don't recognize what's happening there, you think about them the same because they both feel like deals. But if you're shopping inside an experience, and if you haven't done this recently, I'd encourage you to download the apps and go through the consumer experience because I think you'll notice this. When I'm on Walmart, I'm seeing inter-brand competition, right? When I'm on Target, I see inter-brand competition. You see it through sponsorships, which is part of the way that they're driving revenue because they're actually intercompeting the people that are there. So if I'm shopping for toilet paper, I'll see a deal on Walmart or I'll see a sponsored post on Amazon in order to kind of help me decide between the brands that I'm deciding between. And then, if you're on Target, they often have basket size deals. So that's one of the things that Target does, I think, very uniquely. Amazon limits. So if there's something that you have to purchase a certain amount of to get a certain qualification for types of shipping, they're kind of working to get you larger basket sizes over a threshold. And so their standard deals are not usually trying to get you to buy something when you weren't thinking about buying it. They're trying to get you to buy
Buy
more
more.
when you're buying the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's a different strategy. You organize a different user experience, a completely different retail purchasing experience, and you actually see the different retailers behaving differently based on their goals with the deals that they're offering. And I think that's my first interesting point to differentiate that between what's happening now. This here is manufacturing demand, like you mentioned, because I wouldn't have come to Circle Week otherwise if I was just shopping for something at Target. I would have done my standard thing, which is like while I'm here, I might check out whether something else that I normally purchase or whether, if I bought one thing and I have to qualify for 15 or 40 or $90, I might look for something else to kind of pre-purchase to bring up my basket size. This is actually going deal hunting, and it creates a different kind of opportunity to boost demand, not simply just to take advantage of a current customer who grows their pie. The third thing that I want to mention here is that the part of these is that all of them are requiring app downloads or memberships in order to get the
Exactly.
deal. And so you want to
Exactly.
talk about, I feel like that was maybe what you were going to say. I
Yeah.
think that is one of the key
Yeah.
business opportunities that if you sleep on this, you don't get.
That was exactly what I was going to mention is my thinking and my assumption is that to get the best deals on Walmart, like you have to sign up for a trial of Walmart Plus. To get the best deals at Target, you have to become a Circle member or whatever it's called. And so this really is a ploy to
You need to become
increase.
a Circle member, Noah. Mm-mm.
Okay, so it I must. Yeah.
Just from a
So,
market outsider's perspective, we got to track these. We need you as a user.
uh,
Keep
um,
going.
so So the big opportunity here beyond like revenue uplift is loyalty program signups. And I would think that outside of the holiday season, this is the biggest opportunity of the year for Target and Walmart to sign up new users. And then they've done the modeling on the back end to determine, okay, right, our loyalty members like they spend X% more per year. They come back to our stores X% more per year. Their basket sizes are this much bigger. The churn is this, right? And so they know they're going to lose some of those folks throughout the year, but the uplift is going to be permanent and it's going to be meaningful. Just one more point I'll make on that. Like, if I was Walmart or Target, I'd be thinking about doing this now. I'd also be thinking about doing this in early September. The biggest kind of 1 day sign up for Prime that Amazon gets is right before football season because they have streaming rights to Thursday Night Football on NFL now. And so people like literally the day of the game, the first Thursday night game of the year, they're like, "Oh crap, it's on Prime and I don't have Prime." And so like they sign up. And so Target and Walmart don't have that kind of advantage. So I'd also be thinking about how could I incentivize signups like in early fall when Amazon's not running sales per se, but they're using like they're pulling a different lever to get people through the door on Prime. So I think there's an opportunity for these brands to do that in September as well. And one point that you made quickly that I don't want to gloss over is the fact that Amazon is the second largest advertising platform on the world after Google. And so this is not just an opportunity for them to get customers to spend more. It's an opportunity for them to get their third party brand partners to spend more in advertising. Because if you are increasing the volume on your platform by 1.5 or 2x over the next week, well, that ad space just became way more valuable. And so you're not just monetizing you and I, you're increasing the monetization of your brand partners as well. And so Amazon's pulling multiple levers this week to make this an incredibly lucrative time period for them.
I think that's a really important note. And one reason why I think some of the next retailers that we'll see do this include businesses that have loyalty programs already. You'll see, I think, some of the restaurants that we talked about yesterday, and we saw in the restaurant data, data that supported the likelihood. We haven't looked at the retailer data that the more attractive customers are their loyalty members. They come back more, they spend more when they're there, and they behave differently than a standard customer does, and they carry them through downturns as well. So when you already have that kind of stickier customer, that matters. What I've actually been a little bit shocked by, if I were at the home at Home Depot, Home Depot has a pro rewards, but they have very little in-app experience. They have more advantages than Target does, I think, in this kind of way, because they actually do have sponsored posts for their individual retailers. And they also have they have larger ticket items. I think like these are some of the things that you think about during Black Friday, right? Like I think about a new appliance. Well, am I going to buy a new appliance differently now than I would otherwise? So I'm a little bit surprised that some other retailers have not participated in this. And I think that part of that is that they haven't built out the loyalty programs that they probably should be building out. So I think if you think of this as a sale week, you're like, whatever, I can do my standard 4th of July sale and it'll catch all that demand. If you think of this as a second order insight or even a third order insight, which is like the customers that I get now, I keep all year long and I behave with them differently and they treat me differently throughout the course of the year, then you have a completely different incentive to plan for this. And it matters a lot less what you offer and more that you are dovetailing off of that demand during this
Yeah.
time.
And if you wanted to think about, okay, who's going to move in this direction next, the criteria I would use is, okay, which retailer can like has strong enough margins to be able to afford to do this, already has an existing loyalty program, and really caters to consumers' discretionary spending. And what I mean by discretionary spending is like Walmart, Target, Amazon sell a lot of stuff you want but don't necessarily need. And so that's where the higher margins are, and that's where sometimes you have to manufacture a little bit of that demand. So what other retailer checks those boxes? That's the one who I think is going to move in this direction next.
Well, I think this has been a really fun conversation, and I hope that if you're walking around paying attention to the way that you shop, you start to notice things that retailers are doing. And if you can push into these first, second, and even third order insights into what they might be thinking, but also what that might mean for their business at large, I think there's real opportunity to develop insight that you didn't have before. But I also gained some curiosity, Naman. I kind of want to do the same work that we did on the restaurant loyalty programs now on some of these loyalty programs. I remember in 2020 when I used to buy individual stocks, I bought Walmart's individual stock the minute that I signed up for. It was the like literally same day, same minute. When they got me to sign up for Walmart Plus, which included free pickup and delivery of my groceries, it had been I maybe was a once a year Walmart shopper before that. I'm a like once a week or more Walmart shopper now. I saw the business implications of it, and it was a big driver in some of Walmart's stock gain for the last couple of years. And so now I don't buy individual stocks, but that was the connection that I made at the time. And I think you have the opportunity to make those same kind of business insight connections in both public and private businesses if you can recognize, hey, this person just went after a different target customer. The way that that customer is going to behave is going to be different, and there's opportunity there. So I wouldn't have even thought that this week would have mattered if I hadn't made that connection 5 years ago, because I think there was a launch at that time that has led to this point where before there was no loyalty program with Walmart. You just went in and shopped, and it was price conscious. That was what you're there for. But I would imagine that if we did the work on it, those customers spend the most often, spend the most in general, and are incredibly valuable. And I think it's actually honestly a little bit surprising that people didn't figure out that that was what Prime was for. It wasn't free shipping, it was something else. And so,
Well,
Amazon's been eating their lunch for a decade plus
the
while
other
they
thing
didn't
we
figure out what was going on.
The other thing we haven't even mentioned in terms of a benefit of a loyalty program is the targeted advertising you can do. Is you become much more of an effective ad platform and much more valuable to your advertisers if you have that kind of customer data. And that kind of digital services part of Walmart's revenue it's a small base, but it's been the fastest growing part of their revenue if you look at the P&L. And so they're thinking about diversifying their business. One of the ways they're doing that is by turning Walmart Plus and Walmart.com into an ad platform, and they need your data to do it.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We love having you here. This was an idea that I got just from, standard operating out in the world. You're probably encountering different businesses than we are that you've got questions about, and we always love to hear about them. In addition, if you're interested in training for consulting or corporate strategy or senior roles, we're super happy to support you. So please reach out. Thanks again for joining us today.